CenterPoint allows you to either email or print customer invoices, and it allows you to choose different options for different customers. For both of those options, we need to set up a preference underneath File and Preferences. For invoices that we print, we'll set up the preference under Printing and Customer Invoices and go either to the Application or the Database tab. On the left, we'll select which documents we want to print when we print the invoice, and on the right-hand side, we're going to choose the printer and the number of copies that we're going to print of those. For the email, we're going to go to Email Setup for customer invoices that you email. And the first setting you need to set is under Email Setup. But this one is really for all documents that you're emailing out of CenterPoint. So there's a separate video on it for the Email Setup preference that you can find by clicking on the Help button on that screen. The other option is to set up under Customer Invoices a template of the email that's going to be sent with each invoice. So you want it to be fairly generic, then it'll work with most of your invoices, but you'll notice on mine that I have some fields that are in blue. This allows us some customization of this email. So if you want to insert additional fields, what you can do is you position yourself where you want those on the email and then hit either the left square bracket on your keyboard or click on the Fields button, and that'll bring up a list of fields that you can insert into the document. So I just inserted the company email in there. At the bottom of the screen, you'll choose the form for your customer invoice that you're going to attach to the email. Then you'll go ahead and click Save. Since you might not want all emails coming from CenterPoint coming from the same email address, we let you change the email address per document. And you can do that underneath Setup, General, and Email Addresses. For all of the email addresses that you'll send documents for, you'll put in a name, the email address, and in the column for customer invoices, you're going to choose whether or not that email address is going to be the send from, or whether it's going to be a carbon copy, blind carbon copy, or get no email for invoices. At the bottom of the screen, you can select how you want to handle any emails sent to the salesperson on the invoice. You could either say that they're not going to get any email or that they're the carbon copy or blind carbon copy on that email. When you're done making your selections, you'll click Save. When you set up each customer, you'll want to configure them for your invoice printing options. So you can do that underneath Setup in Customers or Setup in Names. You highlight the customer, and I'm going to edit mine and go to the Email and Print tab. At the bottom are the print options, and for customer invoice, if I mark it as yes, then that when I select that customer during an invoice entry, it'll be marked to print the invoice by default. If I say no, it will not, but either one can be overridden. If I want to email an invoice to that customer, I'm going to put in the customer name, the email address, and in the invoice column, I'm going to mark them as the send to. If I need to send it to additional email addresses, I could add additional lines and make them be the carbon copy or the blind carbon copy. I'm going to go ahead and click Save on that customer, and then we'll close out of the customer screen. The first way to either email or print an invoice is through invoice entry. So I'm going to go to Processes, Sales, and to either Customer Invoices or Customer Invoices Quick Entry. When I select that customer that we were working with, I had marked them to both print and email the invoice. So down at the bottom of the screen, both the print button and the email button are marked with a green check mark. I can override the setting by clicking on the button and choosing that I either don't want to print it or that I don't want to email it. On the email button, I can also, if I'm still emailing it, change the text of the email and customize it even further. I went ahead and paused the video and entered in the invoice details. And now when I click Save is when it's going to both print and email that invoice. We'll click Close there. Another way to print and email or reprint and re-email an invoice is by going to Processes, Sales, and then print and email invoices. On this screen, the email first has to be entered in, and then I can find the email by clicking on the filter button and filtering for it. So I'm going to select which company that invoice was for and also the date range. So I'm going to just choose this month and click OK. And if I want to filter for it further by a specific customer or something, I can. If this is a filter that I want to be able to reuse again in the future, I can click Save on it and give it a name. So I'm going to call this Current Month Invoices. And then go ahead and click OK. Now, the next time I want to use it, all I have to do is go to this box next to the filter button and select it from the drop-down list. For those invoices that I want to either print or reprint, I can go ahead and select it. And then down at the bottom are my printer settings and my email settings if I need to make any changes. If I need to renumber this invoice as I either print or email it, I can choose this box here, and then it'll prompt me for a new invoice number. Then there's two buttons over to the right. If I choose the print button, it'll ignore any emails and it'll just print them all. If I choose the email print button, then it'll email those that were marked to email and it'll print those that were marked to print. And in this case, this invoice was marked for both. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and it's first going to warn me that it's going to print it. So I'll click OK. Then it'll bring up the email settings, which I can override or accept by clicking OK. When it's done, we'll close out of there. Another way to reprint or re-email these invoices is through transaction search. So I'm going to go to Reporting Tools and Transaction Search, and we'll filter for just the customer invoices for this month. When I find the invoice, I can highlight it and come down to the print button and choose to reprint the invoice. Or I could right-click on it and choose to reprint the invoice. I could also edit the invoice. And since this one is marked to both print and email, when I click Save, it'll do both of those. If I need to make any changes, I could first click Edit, and then I can click Save to make those changes and then click Save. I'm going to close out of there. And then finally, the last way to reprint a invoice is right through our reports. So I'm going to go to Reports, and I'm going to pull up Transaction Reports, Sales and Accounts Receivable, and I'm going to highlight the Open Invoices report and preview it. All of our reports have the ability for you to do a drill down on it. So if I find that invoice and I double click on it, it'll bring up the edit screen, and so then I still have the same capabilities that I had within edit. If it's already marked to print and or email, when I hit save, it'll do whatever it's marked for. Or if I want to make changes, I can edit it and then save it. So we'll close out of there. In this video, we learned not only how to set up CenterPoint to both print and email invoices, but we learned how to do that at the time of data entry, and also how to print and reprint or email and re-email those at a later time.